class and
Maharaj, what we may do is have the class without you have to see these people. We'll conduct it from here.
I started the recording.
Okay, as you like.
And it will be uploaded to YouTube after because I'm having trouble transferring from Tulsi Priya onto G's account.
If you need to.
let's see what happens.
Marj, is your live band doing kirtan? I can't hear them. Maybe it's because of some sound issue?
No.
Or they're
It
not.
will begin right now.
Okay. Raj, Kendra Prabhu told me to tell you about certain sound settings when you have kirtan. I think there's like a live thing.
I just turned it on. Okay, you're on.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Jai Om Vishnupad Purnamansa Pariprajaka Stotra Sri Srimad A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Nama Acharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopinath Sham Kund Radha Kunya Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Navadip Dham Ki Jai, Jagannath Puri Ki Jai, Ganga Mai Ki Jai, Jamana Mai Ki Jai, Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande. Hari Hari Bol.
Welcome everyone to Srimad Bhagavatam with His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami. It is Monday, May 26th, and today we're starting with Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th Canto, Chapter 16, Text 1.
And I need a little direction now. Should I be here? I'm here in D-Land where there's a big program going on with all the so many sannyasis and devotees.
The fact that they're all here. We will.
Okay, so I'll duck out and maybe come back.
Yeah.
It's a
I
big
sort of have to
opportunity.
honor the presence of all these Vaishnavas.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay. Thank you. And here's the Kindle with the verses.
Okay.
Or you have?
I can get to it.
Okay,
Maharaj,
welcome to
what should we do? There's only like 2 people here and
If there's 2 people, that's good. Even if there's 1 person, Prabhupada said, you can chant to the 4 walls. So we don't stop unless there's 0 people. And 0 you can't do anything with. But
We're going to have some fun.
we'll have some fun here. Okay, and I may also come back.
Should I sit there, Gurudev?
Yes, you can sit here, please.
Thank you. Hello, Dr. Raj Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
How are you?
Good.
Been quite an exciting weekend.
Yeah,
A lot of fun.
great.
Went to this retreat and lots of hearing and chanting in
Oh,
Orlando.
good. Wow.
Oh.
Sounds great.
Yeah, you should have been here. It was fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, Canto 4, Chapter 16, Text 1, right? Do you want to start us off, Dr. Raj Prabhu, or should I go ahead?
Yeah, it would be nice if you were to go.
Okay, I'll do it. Do I sound all right?
You sound good.
Okay. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 16, Text 1.
I forgot to say, yeah.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Maitreya Uvacha Iti Bruvanam Nripating Gayaka Munichoditaha Tushtuvus Tushtamanasas Tadvag Amrita Sevaya. Translation. The great sage Maitreya continued. While King Prithu thus spoke, the humility of his nectarian speeches pleased the reciters very much. Then again they continued to praise the king highly with exalted prayers, as they had been instructed by the great sages. Purport. Here, the word munichoditaha indicates instructions received from great sages and saintly persons. Although Maharaj Prithu was simply enthroned on the royal seat and was not at that time exhibiting his godly powers, the reciters like the Sutta, the Magadha, and the Vandi understood that King Prithu was an incarnation of God. They could understand this by the instructions given by the great sages and learned brahmanas. We have to understand the incarnations of God by the instructions of authorized persons. We cannot manufacture a God by our own concoctions. As stated by Narottam Das Thakur, Sadhu Shastra Guru, one has to test all spiritual matters according to the instructions of saintly persons, scriptures, and the spiritual master. The spiritual master is one who follows the instructions of his predecessors, namely the sadhus, or saintly persons. A bona fide spiritual master does not mention anything not mentioned in the authorized scriptures. Ordinary people have to follow the instructions of sadhu, shastra, and guru. Those statements made in the shastras and those made by the bona fide sadhu or guru cannot differ from one another. Reciters like the Sutta and the Magadha were confidentially aware that King Prithu was an incarnation of the personality of Godhead. Although the king denied such praise, because he was not at that time exhibiting his godly qualities, the reciters did not stop praising him. Rather, they were very pleased with the king, who, although actually an incarnation of God, was so humble and delightful that in his dealings with devotees. In this connection, we may note that previously in Canto 4, Chapter 15, Text 21, it was mentioned that King Prithu was smiling and was in a pleasant mood while speaking to the reciters. Thus, we have to learn from the Lord or his incarnation how to become gentle and humble. The king's behavior was very pleasing to the reciters, and consequently, the reciters continued their praise and even foretold the king's future activities as they had been instructed by the sadhus and sages. Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So King Prithu, Maharaj Prithu, is being praised. He's already towards the end of chapter 15 expressed his in a mood of humility, his his preference not to be praised for things he hasn't done, or he says in 1525, as a person with a sense of honor and magnanimity does not like to hear about his abominable actions. A person who is very famous and powerful does not like to hear himself praised. That's an interesting contrast to some people of today who are famous and powerful and who indeed enjoy very much hearing themselves praised and get very angry when they are criticized. So this is the Vedic qualification for a great person. They even though they are great and powerful, they also have this this character, this adornment, this decoration of humility. It's not a mere decoration, something superficial. It's something they actually feel in their heart. They're full of good qualities, not just qualities that are assumed because of their station. So Prithu, because he's a powerful incarnation, he has these qualities in strength. So this coronation is happening. The reciters are really appreciative of Prithu's humility. It actually serves as an encouragement for them to go on about his qualities, because they're observing this quality, and they know that's a marker. That's actually reinforces everything they've already said about Prithu Maharaj. Now there are instructions in this purport about how to understand incarnations of God. Prabhupada says by the instructions of authorized persons. And he mentions Sadhu, Shastra, and Guru, and all spiritual masters being tested according to these three sources, or these three authorities, I should say. And the conclusion here, of course, was that these reciters were to continue their praise and continue in foretelling the king's future activities, because they weren't just making this stuff up. They were instructed by sadhus and sages, and therefore what they were saying was authorized. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. I have a question.
Yes.
For Panchatattva or anybody else in the call. What does this testing look practically? So it says to test all spiritual matters according to these three things. What does it look like practically for us now? Yeah, I wonder if you have thoughts.
That's good. By testing things means, for us, it means going to an authority and saying, okay, on this matter, how should I react or behave? Like, we are instructed, for example, to follow the 4 regulative principles, chant 16 rounds minimum, Hare Krishna mantra daily on our beats, and avoid all sinful activities or illicit activities. So those things can be understood in some detail. If someone has a question, they can approach an authority, spiritual master, and express whatever confusion there may be, or whatever attention to detail one may need in those matters. But generally, these things are clear, and the application in detail isn't that much of a question. And as we continue to hear from spiritual authorities, our doubts in these matters or our confusion is lifted. So I don't know if I've answered your question entirely, but we have to take it as a practical matter. If there's some practical subject in our lives that we're concerned about in dealing with something in terms of Shastric evidence, or we perceive like a conflict between what we've read and what we've heard, we can always approach a spiritual authority for clearance. Is that okay?
Okay. Panchatattva, you're welcome to continue if you would like. I don't want to, or someone with you as well would like to.
Just one moment. like to continue, Gurudev?
Yeah.
Okay. Guru Maharaj is back. He's good to sit. Text 2. 416.2. 416.2. Some water would be good. Okay. Where do I get? There's someplace lying around this there. Give me one moment.
We have a question from Praveen Krishna Prabhu.
Yes. We have a copy. I just want to take.
I think it's saying how to be gentle and kind. I think if a king is actually supposed to be a kind. Yeah, kind.
Just like Krishna, Prachanaya Sadhunam Vinashaya Tradushkritam. So the king is like the father. So he's affectionate to the citizens. He feels for their welfare. He's kind to them. He wants them to be happy, and he wants to see that they're well provided for, that they have happiness. So he's kind, but he's also strong against transgression of the law, against the dacoits and the rogues and the threats to people's welfare. So not that he has to be one-dimensional. The king has both sides. Just like Lord Nrsingadev, there's a verse, Sridhar Swami, that Lord Nrsingadev is very affectionate, is very fearsome for the demons, like Hiranyakashipu. But he's a very affectionate to devotees like Prahlad. The lioness is very fierce toward anything that might threaten her cubs. But to the cubs, she's so affectionate. So that's the king. Not that he's callous to the citizens or domineering and no, he's all heart for the citizens. But for the rogues, he's like fire. How to be gentle and kind.
Yeah.
Not how to be the king. I see. Well, we can remember the kindness of Krishna, the kindness of our spiritual master. We can desire to be kind. That's the first thing. And purify our consciousness. If our consciousness is polluted, we'll always be thinking of our own welfare. We'll always be thinking of what's in it for me. But as we purify our hearts, then we naturally become kind. And if we associate with those who are kind, by associating with the kind-hearted devotees, we can also become kind. Hare Krishna.
I may have added in the kind by accident. I may have been the culprit of adding in kind. It may have just been king. I don't know what happened there. Because yeah.
If you'd edited it, it wouldn't have come under his name. But both things are there, how to be gentle and a king and how to be gentle and kind. So then now we're on to 2. Nalambayam te mahima varnane yodeva varyo vatatara mayaya Nainanga datasya Porushani te Vajraspatinam api Abramurtiya. The reciters continue. Dear King, you are a direct incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu. And by his causeless mercy, you have descended on this earth. Therefore, it is not possible for us to actually glorify your exalted activities. Although you have appeared through the body of King Vena, even great orators and speakers like Lord Brahma and other demigods cannot exactly describe the glorious activities of your Lordship. Purport. In this verse, the word Maya means by your causeless mercy. The Mayavadi philosophers explain the word Maya as meaning illusion or falseness. However, there's another meaning of Maya, that is causeless mercy. There are two kinds of Maya, Yoga Maya and Mahamaya. Mahamaya is an expansion of Yoga Maya, and both these Mayas are different expressions of the Lord's internal potencies. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, the Lord appears through his internal potencies, Atma Maya. We should therefore reject the Mayavad explanation that the Lord appears in a body given by the external potency, the material energy. The Lord and his incarnation are fully independent and can appear anywhere and everywhere by virtue of the internal potency. Although born out of the so-called dead body of King Vena, King Prithu was still an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead by the Lord's internal potency. The Lord can appear in any family. Sometimes he appears as a fish incarnation, Matsya avatar, or a boar incarnation, Varaha avatar. Thus, the Lord is completely free and independent to appear anywhere and everywhere by his internal potency. It is stated that Ananta, an incarnation of the Lord who has unlimited mouths, cannot reach the end of his glorification of the Lord, although Ananta has been describing the Lord since time. But what to speak of demigods like Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and others? It is said that the Lord is Shiva Virinchi Nupa, always worshipped by demigods like Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma. If the demigods cannot find adequate language to express the glories of the Lord, then what to speak of others? Consequently, reciters like the Sutta and Bhagavata felt inadequate to speak about King Prithu. By glorifying the Lord with exalted verses, one becomes purified. Although we are unable to offer prayers to the Lord in an adequate fashion, our duty is to make the attempt in order to purify ourselves. It is not that we should stop our glorification because demigods like Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva cannot adequately glorify the Lord. Rather, as stated by Prahlad Maharaj, everyone should glorify the Lord according to his own ability. If we are serious and sincere devotees, the Lord will give us the intelligence to offer prayers properly. Om Jnana-timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Shri Chaitanya Manovistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Mayam Rupakada Mahyam Dadhati Shapadantam. So, quite a number of points here. Nalam Vayam Te Mahimanu Varnane. We're not able to adequately glorify you because your glories are unlimited. But as Prabhupada said, still we'll try. Prahlad Maharaj thought all these demigods have glorified Lord Nrsingadev. What can I do? But the Lord was pleased even by prayers of an elephant who's not even a human being. So let me try to say something. So that spirit, even though we may be imperfect, even though our glorification will certainly fall short, let us try to speak the glories of the Lord, at least for our own purification. And others may also benefit. Then, Yadeva Varya Avatara Maya. You've appeared, Atma Maya Trajamyam, you've appeared by your own internal potency. Sometimes devotees become a little confused in the Bhagavad Gita because Krishna says Atma Maya Srijamyaham, and he also says Yoga Maya Samavrita. I'm covered by Yoga Maya. The Yoga Maya potency partly reveals Krishna, partly conceals Krishna. The Yoga Maya potency acts, all of Krishna's potencies act spiritually, but when the potency covers the materialist, then it's called Mahamaya. And when it reveals Krishna or even conceals Krishna partly from the vision of the devotees, then that's the act of Yogamaya, not directly the spiritual energy. Jatasya, Menanga Jatasya Chaporushani. You're born from the body of Vena, but that's not a disqualification. Lord Nrsingadev was born from a pillar. Varahadev was born from the nostril of Lord Brahma. So the Lord can appear in any way according to his own pleasure. And in this case, he appears from the body of Vena. But he's always transcendent. He's always transcendent. Vachaspati-nam api bhagramurtiya. Even though great orators may speak about Krishna, still he's bewildering. He's bewildering bhagramurtiya, even for the great speakers like Brahma and Lord Shiva and others. Okay, are there some questions? Yes, no.
Something in the chat from being Krishna Prabhu. Brahmada.
Brahma Suragana Muniyata Siddha Satbhai Katana Gatayo Vachasam Pravahai Naradhitum Puruganayar Adunapi Pipru Kim Doshtamarhati Same Harir Ugrajate. You could read the translation.
How is it possible for me, who have been born in a family of asuras, to offer suitable prayers to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Even until now, all the demigods headed by Lord Brahma and all the saintly persons could not satisfy the Lord by streams of excellent words, although such persons are very qualified, being in the mode of goodness. Then what is to be said of me? I am not at all qualified.
This is the feeling of a devotee. I'm not at all qualified. Even these great demigods have glorified the Lord with beautiful Sanskrit verses full of poetic figures. So what can I say? But then he remembers that even the elephant was able to glorify the Lord. I'm at least a human being, even though I may be a demon. Well, let me try. And the Lord, Dadami Buddhi Yogam Tam, the Lord will give one intelligence how to glorify him. Yes.
That's a minor question. It's probably been answered in the previous class that I've missed, but Prita Maharaj is a Shakti-avesh avatar. So he's Jiva, but he's endowed with those great potencies of the Supreme Personality of God, and in that way is regarded as an incarnation of the Supreme Lord. But then you have Lord Kapila
Hmm.
who is directly the Supreme Personality of God and not a jiva.
Hmm.
So what categories are these in? We're getting directly the Supreme Personality of God. And also here, I think it's mentioned about Prithu. He's directly the Supreme Personality.
No, Pritu's Shaktivesh.
Yeah.
That was made clear earlier. Lord Kapila is directly Bhagavan himself. But Lord Buddha, Nard Muni, Kumaras, Prithu Maharaj, they're empowered in different ways. Empowered with knowledge potency of the Lord, empowered with potency for rule. So Prithu Maharaj is a jiva, but when the jiva becomes empowered, then he acts with displaying the energy received from the Lord. Extraordinary power, yes. Extraordinary power. So we'll find that.
Yeah.
But he remains a jiva, but he's given special power to do things. Because the spiritual master, he's given power by the grace of the Lord for spreading Krishna consciousness, instructing the disciples. Otherwise, on his own, what can he do? On their own, what can anyone do?
Yeah.
Arjuna was so powerful, he could defeat Bhishma, Drona, Karna. And later, when Krishna withdrew the power, he was defeated by a band of cowherdmen. So no one's anything without the power of the Lord. And with the power of the Lord, one can display exceptional capabilities. Yad yad vibhuti mat sat Srimad Urjitameva Mamate Jon Susambha. Anytime we see exhibition of great beauty, great power, finally it's a power endowed by Krishna. It's a spark of his energy. It's a small spark can do wonders. So, and we'll see later, it's discussed that Prithu Maharaj has all the demigods in his body, and
he doesn't appear as a child.
That's also there. No childhood pastimes required. Varaha, he appeared as a tiny little boar, and within a short time, he's filling up the universe. Matsya Avatar also, he appears as a little tiny fish, and then he gets bigger, bigger, bigger. The Lord's not obliged to have childhood pastimes and to grow up the way an ordinary person grows up. No. He may, for his enjoyment, but he can do something else completely different.
And he appeared with Archie, right?
Yes.
Yes. Both.
Yes.
Fully manifest.
Fully manifest. He appears with Archie from the same body of being. Now, this is Krishna. It's not stereotyped. Not that, okay, in the last incarnation I did it this way, so this incarnation I do something like the same thing. He can do something very different. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, it's wonderful. It's just amazing that someone could appear in this way, be so extraordinarily qualified, and these reciters are praising him, and he's humble and unassuming.
Humble and
well, not necessarily meek, but he's humble, he's kind, he's unassuming.
Yeah. That's also one of his glories. He's not just drinking up, but okay, yeah. Glorify me more, glorify me more. He's haven't shown these things yet. That will come.
Thank you.
Thank you. There's another.
Yes. Priti Purnamati Mastery writes, Hare Krishna Maharaj, is it due to this reason that there is a small letter used to address King Prithu when mentioning his in first verse and you in second verse?
Yes, actually, PBT editorial standard is to use capital letters for divine pronouns, indicating the personality of Godhead, and then small letters lowercase letters for jivas, including Shakti-Vesh avatars. So yes, that is the reason. But in my books, I don't follow that standard. And the most widely consulted books on English usage don't follow it or don't recommend it. The Chicago Manual of Style, which is the book most followed by American publishers, encourages lowercase for all divine pronouns.
This higher case thing kind of like a Judeo-Christian?
No, not even Judeo. Higher case is uppercase is not even a Judeo-Christian convention. The King James Bible uses lowercase, so it's not a standard. But Prabhupada told us, Hayagriva raised the question because in the very early days, well, Satsrup Maharaj, as one of the editors, was uppercasing a lot. Things like lotus feet, capital L, capital F, lotus mouth, all sorts of things were being capitalized because they were designating, Krishna in different ways. So Hayagriva, in a meeting with Prabhupada and the early BTG editors, I was there. He asked Prabhupada, should we go with this uppercase or lowercase? And Prabhupada said, no, everything down. Except, he said, for the Krishna, he, and he said Krishna, he, uppercase. And, Vishnu. And then somebody said, well, what about Radharani? I would say Radharani. And Hagrid said, here we go. But that was the standards set in that meeting. It sometimes creates problems, editorial issues, because, like, for example, Madhavendra Puri will ask the little boy that he meets who brings him milk, who are you? With a capital Y. But obviously he wouldn't be thinking of that boy as the personality of Godhead, even though the pronoun with an uppercase would indicate that. So some devotees in the early days of the BPT thought, well, we should uppercase or lowercase according to context. But that really makes everything, how do you follow a rule like that? Each pronoun you have to decide up, down, what's the context here? So we settled on uppercase for Vishnu Tattva and Radharani and her, and maybe Lakshmi, and lowercase for everybody else. There was something else, uppercase, lowercase. Oh yeah, and then if Krishna is with somebody else, then it goes lowercase. Like Krishna and Arjuna becomes they, lowercase. But then the BBT editors made an exception more recently for Krishna, Balaram, and Subhadra, made them uppercase they. So, we're sort of getting into editorial details here. But since you asked, we might as well put it on the record. It's on the record, actually, in our in the BBT style guide. And for my books, we follow Chicago in lowercase. Well, I think we went with uppercase for the Sankirtan book so that devotees wouldn't flip, wouldn't be all put into a tizzy. But for Vanity Karma, we did it lowercase, and for the Vanaprastha book I'm working on, lowercase. That makes everything easy. Okay, that answers that question in a fair amount of detail.
I have a question on the verse. How is Mahamaya an expression of the Lord's internal potency?
Everything's an expression ultimately of the Lord's internal potency. For the Lord, ultimately it's all internal potency. And probably, but when it's used in a certain way, it becomes external potency. And Prabhupada gives the example that the government has so much money collected from taxes and so on. It has its treasury. And from the government point of view, it's all government money. There's no difference between the college budget, the education budget, and the prison budget. For the king, these were all necessary departments. But the way it acts is different. The students appreciate the college. The criminals don't appreciate the jail. But from the government point of view, it's all good. Or another example is the sun. The sunshine is a product of the sun. The clouds are also a product of the sun, because the sun evaporates water from the ocean and the water becomes clouds. But the clouds block the sun from view. So even though the clouds are the energy of the sun, they're the energy manifested from the energy manifested in such a way as to cover the sun from our vision. So, but originally the source was the sun and the sunshine. But that sunshine acts in such a way that now it's going to obscure our vision of the sun. So Krishna's Yogamaya acts to reveal the Lord. But a portion of Yogamaya, or when Yogamaya acts in such a way as to cover the Lord, then it becomes Mahamaya, when it covers the conditioned soul. And just as the sunshine becomes clouds, it becomes the source of clouds. I hope that helps.
Maharaj, a follow-up. When does Mahamaya cover the living entity?
Bhagavan Shakare, when the Anadi Bahirmukh Jeev, when the living entity turns away from Krishna. Bahirmukh. Bahirmukh means looking away from Krishna. It also means like neglecting. Bahir means, it also means turning away from Krishna, turning toward something external. Bahir Artamani, Prahlad Maharaj says. Nate vidur Swartakatimi Vishnu, Durashaya Ye, Bahir Artamani. We forget that our real benefit, Swargatu, Nate vidur Sarvagatim, Swartakatim, is Vishnu. Our real source of benefit lies in our relationship with Krishna. But when we forget that, we think my real benefit lies in sense gratification. And then Mahamaya takes on. Otherwise, when one wants to serve Krishna, then Yogamaya makes all kinds of tasteful arrangements and enhances our prospects, you can say, for pleasing Krishna.
That Bahirmukh aspect, turning away, is that a way to understand inattentive chanting?
It's not usually used that way, but yes, we're inviting Krishna, please come, and then we're, looking at our Facebook feed. So inattentive chanting means not paying attention. So then if we're not paying attention to Krishna, we're paying attention to something else. So although the term is not used there, and although the inattentive chanter is not on the same platform as a person who's deliberately trying to enjoy independently of Krishna, still that tendency is there. Let me turn toward something interesting, or something, I have to do this, I have to do that. So it takes some practice, some sincerity, some determination to chant attentively, some enthusiasm. Okay?
Yeah, very okay. Thank you.
Something else?
Purna Madhavi Master writes, "Thank you, Maharaj."
Hare Krishna. Come on, Madhupati. Madhupati Prabhu is also with us here in T-Land for this festival in honor of Bhakti Charanaj.
There we could read text 3, or we could stop here, Maharaj. What do you think?
Well,
Short.
another 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Why cut Bhagavatam short? It's not going to, no need. Let's read 3. Let's see, maybe I'll read 3. Let's see. Tapyudara Shavasar Pitur Hare Kalavatarasya Katamrita Drita Yatopadesham Nibhi Prachoditaha Slagyani Karmani Bayam Tatanmahi. Although we are unable to glorify you adequately, we nonetheless have a transcendental taste for glorifying your activities. We shall try to glorify you according to the instructions received from authoritative sages and scholars. Whatever we speak, however, is always inadequate and very insignificant. Dear King, because you are a direct incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, all your activities are liberal and ever laudable. Purport. However expert one may be, he can never describe the glories of the Lord adequately. Nonetheless, those engaged in glorifying the activities of the Lord should try to do so as far as possible. Such an attempt will please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Lord Chaitanya has advised all his followers to go everywhere and preach the message of Lord Krishna. Since this message is essentially Bhagavad Gita, the preacher's duty is to study Bhagavad Gita as it is understood by disciplic succession and explained by great sages and learned devotees. One should speak to the general populace. Well, first, Prabhupada said we should learn Bhagavad Gita threadbare. I heard he said once, the way the Christians study their Bible, they have these worn out Bibles and Mark 21 and Luke this. So Prabhupada said similarly, we should know Bhagavad Gita inside out, threadbare, because that's essentially the message of Krishna, Bhagavad Gita, as heard through the disciplic succession and explained by great sages and learned devotees. One should speak to the general populace in accordance with one's predecessors, sadhu, guru, and shastras. This simple process is the easiest method by which one can glorify the Lord. Devotional service, however, is the real method, for by devotional service one can satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead with just a few words. Without devotional service, volumes of books cannot satisfy the Lord. Even though preachers of the Krishna consciousness movement may be unable to describe the glories of the Lord, they can nonetheless go everywhere and request people to chant Hare Krishna. If possible, we should just describe the Lord from Bhagavad Gita. If you can't do that, just chant Hare Krishna and ask everyone, please chant Hare Krishna. So who is it that can, what's the problem? You don't have to be a learned scholar. You don't have to be an intellectual. Please chant Hare Krishna. Please chant this Mahamudra. So everyone can do that. Prabhupada is encouraging everyone, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did. Jayadvaita Swami Krishna. go everywhere and give this message of Krishna. And Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives a comment: the sages have entered our hearts, and according to their instructions only, we will offer praise. So the sages probably earlier said, we have a taste for this. We have a taste for hearing, we have a taste for chanting. Prabhupada said in that same BTG meeting, because I had a taste for hearing, I was serious about hearing. Now I'm serious about chanting and preaching. So it begins with hearing. We have to have something we have to hear something, then we'll have something to talk about. The sages have entered our hearts, and they're inspiring us to speak. That's why we're speaking. It's not just on our own. Hare Krishna. There's a quote there. Meeting. Yes. Oh, I see. No, that's nothing. All right, shall we have kirtan?
Yeah, you have a live band there, perhaps, Maharaj?
Why not? Come on. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama
Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Jai Om Srimad Paramahansa Paripurajaka Stotra Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Prem Sikaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktavrinda Ki Jai, Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopinath Sham Kund Radha Kundgiri Govardhan Ki Jai, Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Navadip Dham Ki Jai, Jagannath Puri Ki Jai, Ganga Mai Ki Jai, Jamuna Mai Ki Jai, Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande. Hari Hari Bol.
Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami Ki Jai.
Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Gaur Premanande.
Hari Bol.
Hari Hari Bol. Thank you all very much.